Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back. And if you are new, thanks for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. Today I am going to do a book haul video. And I'm going to share the books that I hauled in January. So from recently doing my revisit video, it seems that January has consistently been a month with, I would say, bigger hauls. And this year, many of you know, I am trying to read off of my shelves. So you might think that this January, the haul would be smaller. That would totally make sense and it would be aligned with my goals, but that is not how it all went down. In January 2021, I hauled 21 books. In January 2022, I hauled 14. And in January 2023, I hauled 23 books. These numbers were not planned, I promise, but I can't keep going this way. I can't haul, 35 books in 2035. However, I did rationalize every single one of these books. And I'm not beating myself up about it, but going forward, the plan really is to bring in less books and read more off of the bookshelves. So the hauls hopefully won't be quite this big. Okay, so let's just rip this Band-Aid off. As always, I start with the books that I received from publishers, and this time I have one to share, Cyclettes by Tree Abraham. And I think I won this actually on Instagram from Book Hug Press, and I love Book Hug Press, and I have received many books from them in the past and read many books of theirs. Cyclettes had been on my wish list, so I was happy to be able to get this, so thank you very much to Book Hug Press for sending this along. This is a memoir of vignettes about cycling, so hence Cyclettes. It also has a really interesting format, so I'm looking forward to getting to this soon. The next two books are nonfiction, and I purchased them with a gift card that I received for Christmas. I picked up Finding the Mother Tree by Suzanne Simard. Suzanne Simard is a forest ecologist, and this book talks about how trees communicate. And Suzanne Simard was also a defender on Canada Reads last year. And I love trees and stuff like this, so I think that I will really enjoy it. This was also one of the books that I suggested for the Reading Across Canada challenge. So I did think that I might read it for that as well. The next book has been on my radar for a little while, and I did pick it up thinking that I will use it for the Reading Across Canada challenge, this specifically for Saskatchewan. And the prompt is to read a memoir, autobiography, or biography. So I picked up Call Me Indian by Fred Sasakamoose. Fred passed away in 2020, but I am interested in his story. He was a residential school survivor, and he was the first treaty Indigenous player in the NHL. So my plan is to read this for the challenge in March. This book was also recommended to me by S. Vance, and I talked about it in my series that I do about books I want to read because of you. And I will have some more of those coming up too. So I picked up Forest Green by Kate Pullinger for I think $3, maybe $4. This is a fiction book and another one that I had suggested for the January prompt for the Reading Across Canada challenge. And hopefully I will get to this. Next, I'm going to go back to nonfiction. Missing from the Village by Justin Ling. This has been on my radar for a long time. I had waited for it to come out in paperback, and I was finally able to get my hands on it. This is the true story of serial killer Bruce McArthur. I followed this story when it came out in 2013, that the deaths of several men from Toronto's gay village were linked, and Bruce McArthur was convicted of 8 counts of first-degree murder in 2019. So this was a horrifying story, and the reasons, especially why these deaths went unsolved for so many years, is horrifying as well. And I'm really interested in Justin Ling's telling of this story, because he was looking into it. He was investigating this case before the number of missing men was 8. So in many ways, he has, that inside scoop. He has the inside story. So along these same lines, I have Unmasked, My Life Solving America's Cold Cases by Paul Holes. I find stories like this fascinating and often wonder how people who investigate, the most horrific crimes can do so on a daily basis and how that affects their lives. So I believe that this will be about the cases that Paul Holes has helped to solve, but also on the impact that it has had on him. These next books I rationalized because of the series I do about books I want to read because of you, which are recommendations from either other booktubers or subscribers, and I've added all of those to my recommendations, all of those recommendations to my TBR list. So I have some of them, but these next ones are more that I picked up. So in fact, some of these I'm not even sure that I've even told you about them yet, that I added them and want to read them. So I'm kind of ahead of the game here, but that's okay. So first up, sticking with nonfiction, is The Sun Does Shine by Anthony Ray Hinton. I picked it up for like $4 after seeing this on Nikki's channel, Red Dot Reads. I've actually already read this, so I will be talking about it when I do my monthly wrap-up. But basically, Anthony Ray Hinton spent 30 years on death row for a crime that he didn't commit. Next up was a recommendation from Amanda T. This is Lust Killer by Anne Rule. This is about serial killer Jerry Brudos, who basically lived a double life, and then somehow his wife is involved too. So this does sound intriguing to me, and a book that I will have to read with all of the lights on. Elizabeth is Missing by Emma Healey was recommended to me by Glenda W. This is a psychological thriller about a woman with dementia, or Alzheimer's or dementia. So this sounds really intriguing. The next book was recommended to me by Juan from Plagued by Visions, Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. Juan said that it was phenomenal, very wistful, and tragic. So I am all over that, and I have been wanting to read more from this author. I was able to pick up The Street by Ann Petry, which I heard Ann Novella giving high praise to in one of her top 10 videos of the year, I think. In one of those, I wanted to read all of the books, so I think that this might have been from that. I can't remember exactly, but I'm looking forward to getting to this. Escape from Camp 14 by Blaine Harden. I saw Stella talking about this on her channel, It's Too Late to Apologize, and I immediately added it to my TBR. So I was thrilled when I found a copy. This is the true story of a man named Shin who was born and raised in a political prison in North Korea. And when he eventually escapes, he has never been outside the prison. So I can only imagine, what this read is going to be like. Up next is another book that's been on my radar for a bit, Burnt Sugar by Avni Doshi. This was all over BookTube when it was a nominee for the Booker and for the Women's Prize, I think. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what all the hype is about, and I believe it's about a mother-daughter relationship, and the mother has dementia. Don't quote me on that, I could be wrong, but that seems vaguely familiar to me. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this is all about. Rules for Visiting by Jessica Frances Kane. This is another one that's been on my radar for a bit. I don't know much about it, but I think it's one where people have said that I would really like it because of the characters, and the main character fits the kind of characters that I enjoy, which basically means they are quirky in some way. So we will see, and the cover is interesting for sure. So I have to find out what that's all about. Aftershocks by Nadia Owusu is a memoir which deals with abandonment and identity and just trying to figure that all out. I've heard good things about this book, so I'm hoping that it's a good one, and I might save it for Nonfiction November. Okay, this next book is one of those times where you haven't read the first book and you buy the second book anyway. Yeah, that's basically what's happening right now. So, 1,000 Moons by Sebastian Barry. This is the sequel to Days Without End, which I almost read this month, but didn't quite get to it yet. But it's definitely coming up. So the plan is to continue with this afterwards. So even though I haven't read this author, I feel like I'm going to really enjoy his writing, and I've heard really good things about this duology. Next is a huge book, Wild Swans by Chang. This was all over BookTube, and again, I've heard really good things, and I want to read more about China. I don't really know that history well. I really don't know much of it at all. Some of it, but I'm really lacking on stories from China. So I think that this memoir will be an important one for me, and another one that I might wait till Nonfiction November. Next is another nonfiction, Indian in the Cabinet by Jody Wilson-Raybould. This is another memoir. Jody Wilson-Raybould, for those who don't know, is the former Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada. So she's an incredible woman, and I believe this is I think it's actually her second book. She has a couple of other books published, and I want to read all of them. But I thought that I would start here to basically learn about her life as a leader in politics. And then the next book is by Tomson Highway. I read his memoir, Permanent Astonishment, in January, which I will be talking about in my January wrap-up. And Kiss of the Fur Queen by Tomson Highway is fiction. But from what I can tell, it looks like it is based on the story of him and his brother Rene. Tomson comes from a very large family, and he and his brother Rene were very close, both very talented in the arts, both residential school survivors, and both queer. And in Permanent Astonishment, we didn't get a lot of Renee's story, and Tomson, does touch upon Kiss of the Fur Queen. So I'm wondering if, maybe some of Renee's story is here. I'm hoping. So I will let you know once I read this. So a lot of these books are really heavy. We have prisoners, serial killers, police investigations, communist China, residential schools. So I'm going to end on a lighter note, and the next 3 books I picked up because they are series that I have heard so many good things about. People have recommended them to me many times, and I'm curious to see if I'll like them. So I think they might be perfect reads when I kind of need that break from the more heavier stuff that I talked about. So first is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. The Brown Sisters series is supposed to be really fun and maybe a little bit more lighthearted, so I'm looking forward to starting it. And then the next series is the Finlay Donovan series, and I picked up the first 2 books. Finlay Donovan is killing it, and Finlay Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead, and these are both by Elle Kosseman. And I think the third one is coming out soon as well. Finlay Donovan is a single mom and writer, and she becomes involved in the criminal life somehow. Now, I really don't know much about this, but it kind of reminds me of the Netflix show Good Girls. So it kind of has those vibes of like normal, everyday people committing crimes and taking care of their kids. So I love that show. So if it is similar, I have a feeling that I will really enjoy this series. And then finally, the last book that I have to share from this haul, I caved, everybody. I couldn't help it. I had to do it, and I picked up Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. I've seen this everywhere. People are raving about it, but it was this particular edition that I was really drooling over, and we can't get this edition here in Canada, so I had to do a direct order from Waterstones in England, and they were fantastic. It got here in like a couple days. And I mean, the sprayed edges are the flipping periodic table. Plus, this cover is so much more appealing than this. So, in my opinion anyway. So, I just love everything about it. Lose my color. And I was reading an article that talked about how rare it is for publishers to put this much work into marketing a debut book. And I'm thinking, you know, they must know something I don't know. So I really want to read this, and I hope it doesn't let me down. So those are the books that I hauled in January, and I really think that this will be the last big haul like this in 2023. Please let me know if you have read any of these books, if any of these maybe interest you. Are there any that you think I should prioritize? What are some of the books that you've hauled in January? I would love to hear all about that, and I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.